On November 18, 1952, near the Soviet border in North Korea. Williams wasn't flying alone. His wingman, Lieutenant Dave Rowland, flew beside him as part of a small strike group. The F9F Panther was a solid jet, reliable, stable, and deadly against ground targets. But it had one serious weakness. It was not designed to dogfight the fastest jets in the world. At the same time Williams was flying toward his target, something far more dangerous was already in the air. 7 MiG-15s. Sleek, fast, and brutally effective were climbing to intercept. The MiG-15 was the nightmare of every Western pilot. It climbed faster, turned tighter, and carried heavier guns than almost anything the US Navy could put in the sky. Worst of all, these MiGs were operating dangerously close to the Soviet border. A line neither side wanted to cross. When radar warnings came in, Williams and Rowland knew immediately this was no routine intercept. This was serious. Almost as soon as contact became likely, things began to go wrong. Mechanical issues struck the American flight. Aircraft systems faltered. Coordination broke down. Williams and Rowland were suddenly isolated. 7 MiGs, 2 American jets. Then it got worse. Under pressure and with aircraft limitations stacking up, Rowland was forced to disengage. In seconds, Williams was alone. 1 Panther, 7 enemy fighters. The MiGs came in fast. They didn't hesitate. They didn't probe. They attacked. Williams knew the truth immediately. His Panther was outclassed in a traditional dogfight. The MiGs were faster, more agile, and designed specifically for air-to-air combat. If he tried to turn with them, he would die, so he did the opposite. Williams flew aggressively, forcing close passes, sudden changes in altitude, and sharp gun solutions that disrupted the MiG's advantage. And then something incredible happened. During the opening engagement, Williams managed to line up a shot. His guns roared. 1 MiG took hits and broke away, trailing damage. It wasn't destroyed, but it was forced out of the fight. Against every expectation, the American Panther had drawn first blood. But the MiGs weren't backing off. They were closing in. As the fight escalated, Williams noticed something deeply unsettling. These weren't North Korean pilots. Their tactics were too disciplined. Their flying was too precise. Then came confirmation. The MiGs were Soviet. This wasn't just a battlefield encounter anymore. This was an international powder keg. Williams was ordered not to engage, but by the time the message arrived, the sky was already exploding around him. His response was calm. "I'm already engaged." The MiGs attacked relentlessly. Williams maneuvered violently, pushing the Panther beyond its limits. He used speed dives, sudden climbs, and tight gun passes to stay alive. 1 MiG overshot. Williams fired. It went down. Then another. In one of the most dangerous moments of the fight, Williams met a MiG head-on. A split-second joust where both pilots fired directly at each other. The MiG lost. By now, what was supposed to be a one-sided ambush had turned into chaos. An American pilot alone was winning. Victory came at a terrible cost. A MiG's 37mm cannon round slammed into Williams's Panther. The damage was catastrophic. Hydraulics failed. The rudder was gone. Flaps were disabled. Half his ailerons were destroyed. Williams was flying a crippled jet, barely controllable, still surrounded by enemies, and the fight wasn't over yet. Williams had beaten the odds. But now his plane was dying, fuel was running low, controls were failing, and enemy fighters were still in the sky. Somehow, he would have to escape. Somehow, he would have to land. And somehow, the world would never be allowed to know what really happened. By the time the MiGs finally broke off, Lieutenant Elmer Royce Williams was barely flying. His F9F Panther was shredded. A 37mm cannon shell had torn through the aircraft, destroying nearly everything that kept it controllable. The hydraulic system was gone. The rudder no longer responded. The flaps were dead. Half of the ailerons were useless. Williams had not just survived a dogfight, he had survived it in a jet that should have already fallen out of the sky. Fuel was critically low. The aircraft vibrated violently. Every control input felt uncertain, and Williams still had one nearly impossible task ahead of him. He had to get home. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, Williams saw something unexpected. At a friendly jet, Lieutenant Dave Rowland, who had been forced to disengage earlier, had turned back. His sudden reappearance was enough to scare off the final remaining MiG, ending the engagement once and for all. Williams was no longer alone, but survival was far from guaranteed. Williams pointed his crippled Panther toward the USS Oriskany. The problem was speed. With his control surfaces destroyed, Williams couldn't slow down. He couldn't deploy flaps. couldn't make normal landing adjustments. A carrier landing already demanded extreme precision. This one would require a miracle. Williams radioed his condition. When the crew aboard the Oriskany heard the damage report, they understood immediately. This landing might kill him. The man responsible for the ship, Captain Courtney Shans, now faced his own impossible choice. Williams needed every advantage he could get, so Shans did something extraordinary. He ordered the Oriskany to turn directly into the wind, aligning the massive aircraft carrier perfectly with Williams's approach path. It was a risky maneuver, but it was the only chance. As Williams came in, his speed was terrifyingly high. There would be no second attempt. Williams lined up the deck. No flaps. Minimal control point, one shot. The Panther slammed onto the carrier deck at extreme speed. The impact was brutal. The aircraft skidded violently. Metal screamed. The arresting cable barely caught. The jet came to a stop. Williams was alive. The deck crew stared in disbelief. Against all odds, he had made it what should have shaken the world, 10:44 to 11:51. What happened next is almost as shocking as the battle itself. The dogfight had not just involved North Korean aircraft. Williams had fought and defeated Soviet MiG-15s flown by Soviet pilots in 1952. That was unthinkable. If the truth became public, it could have escalated the Korean War into a direct war between the United States and the Soviet Union. So both sides made the same decision. They buried the story. Gun camera footage was edited. Records were classified. The official version of events was carefully muted. Williams was awarded the Silver Star, but the true scope of his achievement was hidden, and Williams himself said nothing. For 50 years, he kept silent. Decades later, as classified documents were finally released, the full story came into focus. Williams had not fought 7 MiGs. Evidence suggested he may have faced as many as 14. He had shot down 3 Soviet jets in a single engagement. Alone, outnumbered, and flying an inferior aircraft. In 2022, his Silver Star was officially upgraded to the Navy Cross. Today, historians and military leaders are still pushing for the ultimate recognition, the Medal of Honor. Astonishingly, Elmer Royce Williams is still alive today. At 100 years old, he remains one of the last living witnesses to a moment when a single pilot's courage nearly altered the course of global history. He didn't seek fame, he didn't tell the story, he simply did his job and survived. History often remembers machines. The MiG-15. The Panther. The weapons. The technology. But this battle was not won by metal. It was won by calm under fire, by decisive action, and by seconds where courage outweighed fear. On November 18, 1952, one man proved that even in the jet age, wars are still decided by the people inside the cockpit.